Hi, I'm Neil Christensen, author of Dark White and Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey, and you're watching another of my sporadic episodes of I'm Reading House of Leaves, so you don't have to. Today, we're covering Chapter 19. Chapter 19 has a little bit of a time jump. We jump backwards. This is before Will went into the house. This is while he's living with Reston, okay? And they're going through all the footage, they're doing research, they're doing their analysis. And Will is lamenting the fact that none of the footage that he took of the house, of the hallways, of the great spaces, of the stairwell, any of that stuff, he doesn't think it's very good. Nothing of consequence was how Navidson described the quality of the film and tapes rescued from the house. That's why Navidson ultimately returns. We mustn't forget the most obvious reason Navidson went back to the house. He wanted to get a better picture. Which begins to explain why, in February and March, Navidson began to order high-speed film, magnesium flares, powerful flashes, and even arranged to rent a thermal video camera. The chapter then goes into this long, investigation kind of thought process about Navidson as an artist, and tries to claw back a little bit at the notion that photojournalism is not in itself an art. Photojournalism has frequently been lambasted for being the product of circumstance. In fact, rarely are any of these images considered in terms of their composition and semantic intent. They are merely news, a happy intersection of event and opportunity. It hardly helps that photographs in general also only take a fraction of a second to acquire. I feel like this part of the chapter is kind of wasted space because I don't think that the general public actually feels that way. I think that people respect photojournalists more than they imply in the chapter. And so it kind of feels like they're inventing a fight that doesn't exist. They're picking a fight with people who already agree with them. So I kind of feel like this was filler. Okay, filler to fill up the space needed for the chapter. The one thing that they do bring up in this section that I think is relevant, and it may be the whole reason that they create this argument out of whole cloth in the first place, is this idea that Navidson never takes pictures that don't have people in them. Okay, he doesn't do landscapes, he doesn't do architecture, he photographs people, and the humanity behind those people is the story he's trying to tell and examine in his work. And this becomes important because even up until now, when he was photographing the hallway or the things that they were doing, there was always a person in the photograph. So, whether it was the exploration crew or Billy Reston or whoever, there's always a person in the photo. However, as the book points out now, returning to Ash Tree Lane meant removing the other. It meant photographing something unlike anything he had ever encountered before, even in previous visits to the house. A place without population, without participants, a place that would threaten no one else's existence but his own. So that's chapter 19. That's it. That's the whole thing. Nothing from Johnny, and no progress on the narrative except to tell us that Navidson went back to the house, which we already knew. That said, I do think that there was a purpose to this chapter, despite the fact that there was a lot of what felt like filler. But I'm thinking that that might have been there just to justify the existence of the chapter. But they did need to make a point in this chapter. They are reminding us about Navidson's humanity and perfectionism. They want us to remember that about him. So we'll be back again soon with chapter 20. 4 chapters to go. 20, 21, 22, and 23. And the good news is I've already finished those chapters. I've read them. I am done with the book. So it's just scripting and recording them for you. Yeah. So we'll see you again sometime with chapter 20 of I'm Reading House of Leaves, so you don't have to.